Today is a big day in our Elm Hill City Zoo because we will be rebuilding two very old habitats into something far more detailed, improved, and just nicer. So let's say goodbye to the old llama and babirusa enclosures and let's welcome the new Bighorn Sheep enclosure. I really hope you guys will enjoy today's episode. Hello guys, this is Cesar Creates and welcome back to my channel. It is the Elm Hill City Zoo time and today we'll have something very exciting. A while ago I started this mini series inside of our Elm Hill City Zoo series of rebuilding the very old habitats in the zoo that I really didn't like. Those are some of my oldest habitats. I didn't have the skills that I have right now. And I always felt like they don't belong in the zoo, and today we will rebuild two habitats into one new and improved habitat. So as you could see, the episode started with getting rid of those two enclosures. The first one was for the llamas. It was actually the third enclosure that we ever built in the Elm Hill City Zoo. It was very old and probably one of my least favorite habitats out of the entire zoo. The placement of it didn't make sense. Nothing about it made sense, to be honest. And also the babirusa habitat. The babirusa one wasn't as bad, but I always felt that the location or the position of this habitat is also a bit weird. We don't have any Asian animals in this part of the zoo. There are more like temperate animals in here, so the babirusa didn't belong here at all. So I decided to get rid of these two enclosures and build something totally new. It always hurts a bit when I have to demolish those enclosures that I built and took my time to build, but I know that will be something better in this position that will make more sense, so that's why we are doing those improvements. And today we will be adding one of the recent animals that were added to the game with one of the last DLC, the America's Animal Pack, the Bighorn Sheep. Now, again, the Elm Hill City Zoo is a very special zoo because, as you guys probably remember by now, it is meant to be located somewhere in like Central Europe. And in Europe, I think, if I'm correct, that only one zoo has Bighorn Sheep. They are far more popular in America. I actually have been lucky enough to see them in the San Diego Safari Park, and I was completely mesmerized because it is such a stunning and like majestic animal. I really like them, and I wanted to add them here to the Elm Hill City Zoo because I think that it is a perfect spot for such an animal to have in here. I mean, we have reindeers next door, we have pronghorn antelope in this region, we have the prairie dogs, so I think that this animal makes sense for this particular space in the zoo. Rebuilding habitats also is good for my Elm Hill City Zoo problems because we are not adding more pieces, we are deleting some and then adding in their place new pieces, so we are not adding much more to the zoo. Of course, I am now putting far more detail to my builds that I used to, but still it is not as heavy as adding another habitat somewhere in the zoo, so that is very good and something that I think we'll do a bit more in the future. Now, when it comes to idea for this enclosure, first of all, I love building for all the mountain goats, mountain sheep and everything in this game because those animals always have amazing traversable areas, so we can add crazy rock formations, a lot of details to their enclosure, and unlike some animals, they will be able to explore the entire habitat, climb on those rock formations, and it always looks so amazing. And also there is a lot of really nice inspiration that you can find in real zoos for animals like this. Real zoos often have very interesting habitats for animals like ibex, for owlducks, for example. Or other mountain goats and takins and animals like this. So yeah, really like to build for them, and I was super happy that I can build for another mountain goat. I still think that, for example, our markhor exhibit in the Elm Hill City Zoo is one of the best in here, so I was very excited to build for them. Now, when it comes to my inspiration for this habitat, I actually was inspired by something that I really wanted to make in the zoo for such a long time. So actually, some zoos, they have enclosures that are visible from the street. So you don't need to buy a ticket, you don't need to go into the zoo to see them. You can simply walk by the zoo, and the enclosure will have a viewing spot where you can actually see the animal. This is something that some of the city zoos do, not many of them. I will talk about why later, but I was very inspired by the very old habitat in the Warsaw Zoo, actually, in my home country. I actually used to live in Warsaw for a couple of years. I studied there and I saw this enclosure a lot because it is super unique and also a bit weird, because this enclosure is completely outside of the zoo. It is like in like half kilometer or something, like 500-meter distance from the zoo, on the edge of the park near the street. So the just regular people who just, you know, commuted, people who just were walking past this could just see the brown bears, because it belonged to the brown bears. And it was so random, because suddenly you had this enclosure for the brown bears in the middle of Warsaw. It was still like belonged to the zoo. It was serviced by the zoo staff, but they had to walk 500 meters from the zoo to you know, feed the animals, to maintain the habitat. And it was very weird, very strange. It sort of kind of was meant to be like a marketing thing for the zoo, I think. It was closed a while ago. The birds were actually moved into the zoo, into one of the enclosures, because there was some incidents of people you know, under influence of some drinks who actually jumped into the enclosure, and one of them was very badly injured by the bears. So simply to protect the bears from people who are very irresponsible, the zoo decided to move them into the zoo. And now the enclosure is actually sort of like a monument. It is still in Warsaw, so if you'll ever be there, you can go there and see the empty bear habitat. It is actually painted all in gold, I think. And now, right now, it is like a tourist attraction. It is like something like a trivia about Warsaw. Not many people know that actually there have been bears in this. It was in the Prague, this district of Warsaw. So very cool story. But the enclosure wasn't that good. Warsaw Zoo is sort of a very outdated zoo. For a zoo in a capital city, it is, I would say, even a bit bad. We have so many better zoos that are in like smaller cities in Poland, which is very strange, but I know that they have some plans to improve the zoo. But yeah, it is very good that they closed this one, but it became my inspiration, because if you guys remember, you probably do, because I talk about this in almost every Elm Hill City Zoo video. My idea for this is that the Elm Hill City Zoo is a very old city zoo that has a lot of funding, so we have a lot of improvements, we have a lot of modern buildings that have been built over time, but it also has some older areas. We have this insect house right next to it. We have this like zoo administration building. So I thought that it would make sense for this habitat to be one of the older ones, maybe one of the oldest ones in the zoo. So it made sense to make it very concrete, very outdated, with the moats, with the view from the street that is not so popular in today's zoos because of people being irresponsible, unfortunately. Of course, for the zoos, it is more difficult to prevent all those weird situations when all the people from outside of the zoo have direct access to the enclosure. They don't need to buy tickets, so, you know, people have very weird ideas. For example, jumping into the enclosure, throwing stuff at animals and stuff like this. So probably a very modern zoo that cares wouldn't do a habitat like this, but hey, we wanted to have something very outdated. And in my idea, this habitat was also for the bears back in the day, but we now got rid of the birds, maybe they died from the old age, or maybe we moved them somewhere to the zoo into the different enclosures that we still didn't build because we didn't have time and place and any more performance in this zoo. And the zoo decided to rebuild this habitat, enhance it a bit, add some maybe rock formations, and bring in some hoofstock animal, because this habitat would be very bad for the bear, but I think would work perfectly for an animal like the Bighorn Sheep. So oh my god, that was my idea for the zoo. I know that it is very complicated and a long story, very like deep lore, deep backstory or some. Finally, I told you about my idea for this enclosure. I actually wanted to upload this habitat a week before, but it took me so long to build. I don't know why. It is an ungulate enclosure. Those normally take less time than for some more complicated animals. But this moat, coping thousands of pieces, making it flow nice and, you know, making it clean, just took some time. I was also a bit busy, so I didn't have time to post this earlier. I know that I promised you guys that there will be more videos, and then I didn't post any of them last week, but hey, I will try to go back and track right now. In the last episode of the Elm Hill City Zoo, we actually added the Komodo dragons to the zoo. I wanted to thank you guys for an amazing response to that video. I am so happy that a lot of you liked it, because it was a bit like stressful going back to the series after a big break. So I was very happy to see a lot of you guys being very excited and also coming back to the Komodo dragons. I am very happy to announce that we have a new sponsor in the Elm Hill City Zoo. So huge thanks to Danilo, who decided to become a sponsor of the Komodo dragon habitat. So here is your plaque on the enclosure. Thank you so much, this means the world to me and to our Komodo dragons, I am sure of it. And if any of you would like to become a sponsor of any of the habitats in the Elm Hill City Zoo, all you need to do is become a member of the channel with the join button down below. You can choose any of the tiers and then comment down under any of my videos which habitat in the Elm Hill City Zoo you would like to sponsor, and you will get your own dedicated plaque in the zoo. Okay, but let's go back to our Bighorn sheep. So let's quickly go through everything that I already did when it comes to this habitat. So first of all, of course, I demolished the old habitats. Then I started to work on this moat of this very ancient enclosure. This was something very popular back in the days. It is still popular now, but I feel like the zoos try to make the moats more natural, with, for example, water, or the moats are more like ditches with some plants growing in there. But this one was meant to be very like concrete, and I feel like when the bears were living in this habitat, they could have even water in there. Bears love to swim, so they need water, but for our Bighorn sheep, I believe that we don't need the water section, so it will be just a dry moat. It took some time to make this really nice like wavy shape of the whole enclosure. I had to copy a lot of different pieces. I skipped that. I skipped a lot when it comes to this speed build because I was just copying things over and over again. The same when it comes to the rock formations. There's so many rocks in this habitat. I basically covered the entire habitat with the rocks because I knew that the mountain goats in this game can actually really nicely climb on them, and I was right because as soon as I release the Bighorn sheep into this enclosure, they could basically go everywhere, and it made me so happy. So of course those animals love to climb, and we have this really amazing, very cool enrichment items for the mountain goats in this game, called the Goat Mountain, which is a very original name. And normally I am not a huge fan of it because it is very huge, and it is also made out of the faux rocks. You guys know that I am not a huge fan of the faux rocks in this game, but this time I really wanted to have like a very pointy, very high rock formation, so I thought it will make sense to actually add it. And I did just that, and I decided to cover it with, to test some things and cover it with regular rocks to see if it will still work. And it did. They are able to still climb on it. Maybe it's a bit wonky sometimes, I don't know why, but yeah, they are able to climb on this mountain. I'm also able to actually now take one of them and place them on this mountain. So in some screenshots and cinematic shots, you might see a sheep just being stuck there for the sake of me just taking some screenshots. I hope this sheep doesn't mind. I placed her back, or him back, to the enclosure, but I really needed some really nice photos of this habitat because I think it came out really great. I think that this is basically one of the best of those like rebuilds of the habitats. By far, I really like the dromedary camel habitat that we did out of the kangaroo habitat that was there before. What else? We also improved the first habitat that we've built in the zoo for the seals. We've built a new habitat for the aardvarks that I also really like. We've built a new one for the otters. And there's also, I think, at least 2 or 3 rebuilds that I can name out of my head that I really want to make. You guys will see when and what it will be, but definitely this is something that I want to continue because I feel like some of the habitats in this zoo just don't belong here and we can build something better. And I also forgot to mention that when it comes to our llamas and babirusas, because I am sure that a lot of you guys will be asking about this, the llamas will be actually moved to the petting zoo. I really want to have them there. I think it makes more sense. Llamas are very popular in petting zoos, in different zoos around the world. So we will have a dedicated enclosure for them. Maybe even combined with alpacas. We'll see about that. And my initial plan for the babirusa was to have it in a big, like, tropical house that I really wanted to build in the zoo. But because of our issues with the save file, I don't think we will be building a lot of those big and grand builds because I'm simply afraid that I won't be able to finish them. So let's just pretend that the species coordinator decided to move the babirusas from the Elm Hill City Zoo to some other zoos where they will have better conditions or maybe a bigger herd or anything like that. And if babirusas will be included in Planet Zoo 2 and I will start building a new zoo, maybe we'll build a babirusa habitat in the new zoo in Planet Zoo 2 and pretend that they were moved from the Elm Hill City Zoo. That is actually a great idea. So after adding all the rock formations to this habitat, all the rock piles and everything like that, it was time to add some plants. I didn't want to go too crazy with the plants because I know that those animals will simply eat them. We'll add a lot of dry, like some branches and stuff like this, and also a lot of decals because I wanted to make this habitat look a bit maybe dirty or a bit more, add some textures to make it more interesting. We'll add some dry leaves and also add a lot of different decals and leaves in this moat because I think that, you know, dirt and this detritus and everything like that would just simply accumulate there. It is a ditch, so everything will be carried there with the wind, and that was my idea for it. Of course, we added enrichment items for the animals, and I also created my own custom fence for those animals. This fence is actually inspired by Prague Zoo, and their fences for animals like the ibex, the audat, and I don't know, they have those really crazy, like very steep habitats for animals like this. If you've ever been in Prague Zoo, you probably know how much climbing you need to do because this zoo is basically in the mountains. It is so crazy, but also so beautiful. And if you will climb all the way up in the zoo, you will have this amazing view for the entire city of Prague. I love this zoo so much, and taking inspiration from it is always such a nice thing. So the next episode on the channel when it comes to Planet Zoo stuff will probably be the Desert Adventure Park. I really want to make those go one by one. I mean, one episode of the Elm Hill City Zoo, then one of the Desert Adventure Park. I hope that I will be able to keep it that way. When it comes to the Desert Adventure Park, there's not many episodes left actually to this series, so I think that we'll be able to finish it before, obviously we won't be able to finish the Elm Hill City Zoo, but after I'll be done with the village, the last village in the Desert Adventure Park, I think there will be more episodes of the Elm Hill City Zoo coming out till of course the Planet Zoo 2 will be released. We still don't know anything about the release day, but everyone is expecting it to premiere probably in November, so we still have several months of building in this zoo and some really nice habitats and animals coming up. Now, I see your comments, I know which animals you want to see, so I will definitely take this into consideration. I know that the ungulate is probably not the most exciting animal, but I still hope that you guys will enjoy this habitat. There will be a lot of exciting animals coming. Now that I know that I won't be able to finish this zoo, I think that I will just build for whatever animal I want. The two sections that I really want to finish, or maybe three, are the petting zoo, the mountains of Asia, where we only have like 2 or 3 habitats left, and the African section, where we also have like, I don't know, 4 or 5 habitats left. And after that, I'll just build for whatever animal I feel like. So there will be bears, that I know that a lot of you are waiting for, and there will be probably some primates coming. So this is something that you can expect, because I've seen so many of you asking for bears and primates, and this is fair because we don't have any of those animals here in the Elm Hill City Zoo. I don't know when it will happen, but it will happen. I promise you guys. Now, as you can see, I also created my own custom shelter for those guys. I was actually inspired by my own work. I did something very similar for the Markhor, and I really liked the shelter. So I repeated something very similar here. But I had this idea to make it closer to the path. I was again a bit inspired by Prague Zoo, and add the window to the guests with the path, little path leading to this window, so if the animals will be inside of the shelter, the guests will still be able to see them. This is amazing for a zoo nerds like me. It is always so nice to get a little sneak into the backstage areas. Every time the zoos allow us to see those spaces, I am always so happy and so interested in all of this that is inside. So yeah, I had this idea and I decided to just, simply add this window. Of course, you will see that all in the cinematics. When it comes to this shelter, I didn't record the interior. It is very easy. And I also realized that I didn't record by accident adding the roof, but it is a very simple roof using the pieces from the Twilight pack. I really like this texture when it comes to this roof. The Twilight pack has some amazing building pieces. A lot of people don't like this pack because they think it is over stylized and over themed when it comes to all this like Twilighty Halloween stuff, but actually it has some amazing building pieces, and the animals are also quite nice. So I'm using it a lot in most of my builds, so it is definitely a pack to have if you like building in this game. After I'll be done with the shelter, I will also show you how I will be adding some custom paths using the concrete pieces, basically covering the normal in-game path. Some of you are still asking me how I am able to do those paths so seamless. And whenever they are so seamless, they are basically covered with concrete pieces, so those are not the actual in-game paths. And when you are building a moated habitat like this, it is very hard to be super precise with the terrain, so you basically need to do the thing like this to simply cover all the gaps in the terrain. Unfortunately, with this, you are not able to place the actual in-game path too close to the moat. So if you'll have the guests in the zoo, they won't actually be able to go too close to the moat, but hey, you guys know that I prefer the looks over the practical things in this game. So since this zoo is closed, I sometimes even don't add the guest paths because I don't simply need them. But of course, if you are into franchise mode or anything like that, you can still cover the actual paths with the building pieces, and the guests will still be able to use the paths. Improving those habitats not only is making the Elm Hill City Zoo look way nicer, but also kind of shows me how much I was able to learn in this game. Like, just compare this to the Llama Habitat. I remember that I was so proud of myself when I created this Llama Habitat. By the way, I will put the link in the description and on the screen so you guys can go and check it out. But please don't fall asleep because the voiceover for that video is so boring, oh my god. But I remember being so proud of creating like a mode for those animals. I remember that back then, it was like how many, like 5 years ago or something, creating a moat for a Planet Zoo habitat was something like very advanced. Yeah, now looking at it, I think that this habitat was so simple and so weird. It had such a big barn for those animals. The barn was almost the size of the whole enclosure, so I don't know why I did that, but hey, I was so proud of it back then, and it still has a lot of views. So maybe some of you actually enjoyed it, I don't know. But this of course doesn't compare. You will see the final product in a second. I of course also added all the plants and everything around this enclosure to make it look even nicer. As you guys can see, right now I'm working on this place where the guests, or not the guests, just people who will be walking by the zoo, they will be able to stand there and watch the animals from the street, which is both really nice because it kind of encourages people to just go into the zoo to buy tickets if they will like what they see, kind of like an encouragement or something, but also some people might have weird ideas, as our brown bears in Warsaw have found out, unfortunately. And yeah, with that being said, this is the end of the speedball part, and I will meet you guys in a second to show you everything when it comes to this enclosure in the cinematic shots. The small herd of the Bighorn Sheep has just arrived in the Elm Hill City Zoo. Just as I told you guys, we are kind of special because those are not popular in European zoos at all, but hey, we found a way to bring them here, and I think that they actually enjoy this new enclosure. It is a new enclosure for them, but back in the days it used to be a very old bear enclosure repurposed into the enclosure for the Bighorn Sheep. It features a viewing opportunity from the street that is next to our zoo, so this means that the guests or just regular people who will be passing by can stop here and just observe the animals without the need of buying the tickets. Maybe it is a tiny bit irresponsible, but I hope that the people won't have any stupid ideas. I really like the model of the Bighorn Sheep in Planet Zoo. I think that they are just stunning, and also their traversable area is so good. You guys can see right now how well they are just traversing, going through this enclosure. They can go into the moat, they can actually climb on those rock formations, and they can use the Goat Mountain enrichment item. I think that this is such a major glow up when it comes to this area of our zoo. I am glad that I decided to get rid of those two habitats and build a new one for the Bighorn Sheep, because I think that it really suits to this area of our zoo. I created some custom fences for this enclosure. I also created my own custom shelter. There's also a feeder that I created for, I believe, the Somali wild ass a while ago. And this is how the shelter looks inside. I'll also give you guys some more aerial shots of this enclosure to show you how it looks in the zoo. It is positioned next to the entrance, next to the insect house and the zoo administration building. Very close by, there's also a new seal habitat that we also improved a while ago. Okay guys, this is all that I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this new Bighorn Sheep habitat in the Elm Hill City Zoo. If you did, please consider to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also leave me a comment and tell me what you think about this new habitat in the Elm Hill City Zoo. If you'd like to become a sponsor of one of the habitats in the Elm Hill City Zoo, perhaps the Bighorn Sheep habitat, you can do it by becoming a member of the channel with the join button down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!